Okay, let's talk about the coaches.
Oh,
And this is going to be in praise of Kyle Shanahan. He's a lot different than the Eagles head coach, Nick Sirianni, who these guys are both very successful. Sirianni's won 27 of his last 29 games. But, well, you take it, Dad. I mean, there's a little bit of a Bill Walsh context here.
yeah. Bear with me. I got this cough that won't go away, so I'll cough a little, and I apologize. Bill Walsh, there were certain things he always said to me. And one was, I don't want to be at the mercy of my coordinators, meaning I don't want to be kind of a coach who doesn't call his own plays.
Right.
Then I can get screwed by a coordinator. Now, Bill was at the mercy of his defensive coordinator, but he had Chuck Studley and George Seifert. So he had very good taste, and he won a lot of Super Bowls because he did his own play calling and designing, and he had great coordinators. Sirianni, who's clearly a very good coach, doesn't do nothing like that. He has a defensive coordinator and he has an offensive coordinator. He brings things together. He's an overseer, but he's not calling plays. Bill would not like that, would not want to be in that position because Sirianni is totally at the mercy of his coordinators. Dangerous place to be. And it's where Pete Carroll is. Pete Carroll, as far as I can tell, he doesn't do jack. He chews gum.
He chews gum.
He chews gum and throws it away and gets
like
another piece
pack.
of gum. The whole pack.
Yeah.
But he's at the mercy of his coordinators, not Kyle. Explain why Kyle isn't, Iggy.
Well, Kyle is a coordinator. Kyle was one of the best coordinators in the league. He was a much better coordinator than Nick Sirianni ever was. And maybe Nick Sirianni, I don't know, is a better delegator or motivator or whatever. Maybe just has a better roster. But I think if Bill Walsh were alive, he'd probably respect Kyle Shanahan or identify more with Kyle Shanahan's style of coaching. And he would consider Nick Sirianni more like a chairman of the board type.
Yeah. He comes, he does press conferences.
He does press conferences.
He rah-rahs the team and things like that.
He rah-rahs the team. He mugs for the camera. But really, he sets a tone. But really, he's not
the culture.
But he's not doing the work that Kyle Shanahan's doing. So I think Kyle probably looks down on Nick Sirianni like, this is the best coach in the league. What do you do?
What do you do? Bill would look down on him, and Bill would say, Kyle is not at the mercy of his defensive coordinators because his taste is impeccable. At getting defensive coordinators, his taste is impeccable. So that's one hell of a coaching staff, and Kyle is in the Bill tradition in that regard.
And here's why he's not at the mercy of his defensive coordinators. I think here's his thought process. It's a defensive team, the Niners. And they're a defensive team because they pour most of their resources into that side of the ball. They don't really ever address their offensive line. It's all defensive line. They'd rather have 8 good defensive linemen than 2 good offensive linemen. So they feel if their defense is so talented, almost anyone could coach it. You know what I mean? You could get a new coordinator every few years. It doesn't matter. Look, they just got it. They're on their 3rd coordinator. It's still the number 1 defense in the league because they have Nick Bosa and all these players. And Shanahan can make it work with what he has on offense. He doesn't have to have the best offensive line. He can get weapons that only he knows how to use. Things like that. Like, not that many teams wanted Christian McCaffrey before he showed everyone that he was so good. Not that many teams would know what to do with Deebo Samuel. George Kittle was a 5th round pick. So I think he feels like if he just pours his resources into defense, he can take care of the offense and the team will be consistent. Whereas Nick Sirianni, the Eagles were so good last year that they lost both of their coordinators. Shane Steichen, offensive coordinator, now the head coach with Indianapolis. Jonathan Gannon, defensive coordinator, now the head coach of Arizona Cardinals. They're both gone. 2 new coordinators. And the Eagles are 10-1, but they rank 9th in offense and 19th in defense because those 2 new coordinators are still figuring it out. Nick Sirianni's over here doing press conferences.
Yeah. Chairman of the board.
Right.
So since I grew up as a reporter covering Bill and Seifert, I grew up with someone who called his own plays on his side of the ball. It's what I understand, and it's what I prefer. Sirianni, to me, again, I've never met him, is an odd duck. I don't like the way he does it. I prefer Kyle as a coach. Now, I'm sure Sirianni makes decisions in game. Do we punt? You know what I mean? All that stuff, I'm sure. But he doesn't call the plays. He may be a better in-game coach than Kyle. I don't know. Kyle may be a better in-game coach than him. I don't know. I'm just talking philosophically.
One thing I do like about Nick Sirianni philosophically is in the game how eager he is to go for it on fourth down. Yeah. I think he's really sort of changed that team and made them very unconventional. We talked about it earlier, but they're really never in a situation where they're going to pass, ever. Not because of the score, the time of game, or the down and distance. They're always leveraging the run game, and it makes them exhausting to defend because by the fourth quarter, you're tired.
You're tired, and they run better in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and they hold on to the ball. It's 3rd and 6, and they run the ball, and it's 4th and 1, and they keep it, and they keep going, and they keep going. And I mean, I think the Bills were defenses on the field for like 90-something snaps last week. It's just exhausting. So that's something you got to deal with, and that's a big Sirianni thing. I think Kyle Shanahan could be more aggressive that way. He's a little bit like his dad, who was a coach in the 90s, and they didn't do stuff like that.
I got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, having said all that, I prefer Kyle as a coach. I admire the way he does it, and it's in the Bill. He doesn't coach in the Bill Walsh tradition. It's different, but his philosophy is like Bill's.
Yeah. And that being said, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I keep coming back to Bill because I covered his career and because he's the best football coach I ever covered.
I love it. I will say though that Kyle needs to prove he's better than Sirianni. They faced each other twice. I think they're 1-1. Yeah, so he needs to win this game. Otherwise, he could say whatever he wants that he's got a better playbook or a better scheme or he's a better coordinator. But burden's on Kyle.